But Babe Ruth won 2 records in 1 year, the most home runs and the most strikeouts. I love that message when it comes to failure. So if you can't feel, if you're not willing to feel the shame and fear and the guilt of failure, you're probably never going to be Babe Ruth. You're going to never have the most home runs. Every time he stepped up to the plate. What if he was like, well, I don't want to fail? Well, he could have been the most amazing batter who got to first base, but he sure as heck wouldn't have won the most home runs.
Hey guys, Damian Stevens, host of MSP Mindset. Join me as I get the privilege of speaking with Dr. Rob Murray, author of The Human Operating System and Fighting for Heart. Why would we talk about the human operating system and fighting for heart? Has talent ever been an issue? Getting new talent, putting them in the right seat, retaining them? Guess what? It goes back to having the emotional intelligence to know yourself. Rob breaks it down in his science-backed principles of how to understand yourself, how to have a human relationship with your feelings and with your team in a way that will unlock leadership that will allow you to be 3 to 4 times more effective than any other company. Don't miss our conversation.
You know, with all of us, we all come from somewhere. So there's a family mindset that we're born with. Whether you like it or not, by the time you're 3 years old, you've decided whether you're going to trust the world or not. And I wish I could change that. But as babies, we're like human beings trying to figure out, is the world safe? Can I trust the people around me? And my story is a little bit tumultuous. And so I don't know if you're out there and you're trying to build a business right now, but you've got all these things underneath the surface. And so for me, some of the things under the surface were figure out how to take care of yourself. Life is not always going to be safe. So you become hypervigilant. I'm super hypervigilant. These days, it's not as much a drug anymore to want to know everything and stay safe in the world. But I came from a very complicated background, as many people did. And there's reasons for it. You know, I always say our parents did the best they could, and sometimes the best they could wasn't good enough. And I'm saying that about myself. These days, I'm doing the best I can to raise 4 kids, and you know what? Sometimes it's not good enough. So the work that I'm learning to do, which I was experiencing as a child, was the feeling of people caring for me not being enough, but not having the language to be able to navigate that. And so you have to kind of figure it out yourself. So those moments traveled with me of kind of figure your life out, get through it. But then you start to wake up, or I keep talking about then you, but maybe you can relate. I start to wake up in high school. You start to wake up in college, perhaps, and you're distracted and you're busy and you're chasing things. And it's kind of fun, you know, in high school, maybe it's girls, in college, it's girls, and then it's money, and then it's, you know, opportunities, and then it's sports, and then it's entertainment and friendships, and you name it. But there's always that nagging feeling that I've had, and I still have it to this day in a different way. And it's just kind of like, is this it? Like, is this your life? And it's not a shaming voice. It's not like, is this it, you piece of, you know, it's just kind of like, well, sometimes it is that. But sometimes it's just kind of like, hey, man, what else? Like, what else? And the worst part about that question is when you don't have an answer for it. So then you just kick the can down the road and you're like, I don't know. I'll take another tequila, thanks. Or, you know, I don't know. Let's go do something fun. And you kick the can down the road. But I believe in our whole lives, we're going to have this voice that just says, what else? Or what kind of depth or meaning do you want to add to this? And so for me, that was getting confronted with me over and over and over again. And I remember it through my college years, especially. And I think a critical mass happened when you get married and then you kind of lock yourself into a container of commitment. And that's where another human being gets to see you for who you are. And then the best and the worst of who you are starts to come out because it's a safety container. And so one of the stories I often tell is this moment. We've been married quite a few years now. We're going on 21 years. But I don't know, maybe we were 10 years in and my wife sits me down on the bed, and some have heard the story, some have not, but it's a really kind of tipping point moment for me. I'm killing it, Damien. I'm like, I'm out in the world. The whole world is ahead of me. I'm building businesses as a young entrepreneur. I'm showing up to my life. I'm doing my master's degree. I've got people coming around and I'm networking and I'm just doing everything you do, that all the stuff they tell you to do to be awesome. And
Mm-hmm.
I'm giving it a good shot. And you get some setbacks, but you're resilient because you've actually got energy. These days, I feel like that energy is slowly seeping from my bones, but I've got to figure that one out. But you've got so much like resilience and all this kind of stuff, and I'm on top of the world. We're having babies, but that kicks you in the face a little bit when you realize you're not sleeping anymore and you're spending more on diapers than dates. And then all
Yeah.
of a sudden, you're like, wait, what's happening? And so you get through that, and she sits me down and she says, Rob, it's so well, she says it this way: I need to talk, right? And then you're like,
Mm.
oh God,
Oh no.
exactly. And I think that we need to talk. um I just want to pause there for a second. We so often, like, I mean, even as I'm holding the tension, you're like, what does she want to tell him? Like, it can't be good, it can't be good.
Right.
Just realize that we need to talk is a moment of reckoning that saves a lot of our lives a lot of the time. Like, you could be building a business right now, you're trying seven different things, and someone could look at you as a friend and say, hey, we need to talk. And if you interpret that through the lens of what have I done wrong? How can I be better? Are they here to criticize me? Well, you're going to miss out on what's actually happening. It's a moment where someone who apparently cares for you long enough to stop their life, to settle you, to bring the world into focus and say, hey, where are we at? What's going on here? Are you okay? Do you think you've got what it takes for this business? Are you on the right strategy? Excuse me. And my wife looked at me and just said, Rob, we need to talk. And that's the moment where she says to me, you're a good dad, you're a great husband. And I'm like, killing it, looking good, feeling good. But the three-letter word that's put so many of us into a tough spot. She said, but it's very lonely to be married to you. And so here I was crushing it
Mm.
on the work front. I was a human doing. I was giving everything I had to the world. I was going out into the world to fight for a life, but I was never coming home to live that life with the people that matter more to me, that means so much to me. And that was just a real pivotal moment, Damien, of me going, whoa, hold on. What does this ungrateful human being want from me? That was probably what went through my mind first. In South Africa, we say it like we think it. And then it was like, wait, what? What is she talking about? I thought I was killing it. And then it was like, oh gosh, I think she's right. I'm kind of lost and lonely. Oh gosh, I don't know what that means. I don't even know what that means. So, like, I want to get out of that hot water. And so,
Mm-hmm.
as time settled, I mean, day, 2 days, 3 days, my brain started to say, I think she's onto something, Rob. The worst part was I didn't know what that meant. So then I did what I encourage people in my work to do, is go on a journey. And I went on a journey to recover what I would say is the heart and soul of my life, so that I could bring it back to my family, back to my work, back to who I was as a human being. So that was one story. There's so many more, and they continue to happen, unfortunately and fortunately, I guess. These moments of reckoning that invite me into more connection.
Who couldn't relate, unfortunately, at least I can,
Yes.
to getting wrapped up in external focus, you know, especially from a worldly perspective, right? I'm building this business and I got this team and then I hired this new executive and this is going well and we landed the new client and this and
Yeah.
this and focus
Mm-hmm.
and get a nicer car or a nicer house or all these
Yes.
things.
Yes.
And then, the thing I care about is family. I had
Yes.
one that I haven't shared that um, I'm probably like most people that build a business, competitive, right? You're there because you
Yeah.
want to show up, you want to be amazing, but you want to
Yes.
win, right? And so it started off like super innocent. Like somebody at church was like, "Hey, we're having like some church tennis thing. You want to play?" And I was like,
You're
I've
like,
never
no, I
played.
want to win. I want to
That's right.
crush.
Well, they said, do you want to play? And I'm like, I've never played. And they're like, we'll take you. I think it's because at that time I was younger, because they were like, you probably are, and do well with. And so I got, into that. And then they're like, come play, at this, gym tennis club thing. Come, once that was done, they're like, you kind of got it. Well, you want to join us? Okay.
Hmm.
And then, yeah, that's exactly what I don't want to go and just play. And then they were like, oh, you could join a league. You could be in that. And then so I'm like, well, what does that look like? And they're like, you got to practice 3 times a week. And then we'll play, 1 match a week. So that's like 4 nights a week. And then the gateway drug for me was, if I worked really hard, because I was not the most talented, then I could win. And I went
Yeah.
from, when I started playing, I couldn't keep the ball never mind on the court, but in the fence. It was like a baseball swing.
That's amazing.
And then all of a sudden I fast forward and I'm on 3 different teams in 3 different leagues, and I'm winning like an absurd percentage, like over 90%, and not naturally skilled. End up becoming like the club I was at, like they still hung it up there. We ended up winning the state championship,
Wow.
all sorts of things. So I'm not naturally skilled, but I do this, and this is gateway drug. And I think the other gateway drug was I was playing, not just what they call singles, but doubles and mixed doubles, and I was playing all 3 of those. And the ones where there was doubles, your team was depending on you in singles, but where you have doubles, then you have this partner that depends
Yeah.
on you, and they can't
Yeah.
play if you don't show up. And so if you're doing the math, you can't be on 3 leagues and be practicing 3 times plus playing a match every week. 3 times 4.
Yeah.
There's not that number of days in a week. And my wife is pregnant with our first child the entire time. And she had a job. She started really early, and then I would see her for dinner, and then frankly, she would be up another hour, maybe hour and a half, not too late.
Yeah.
She kind of was going to bed early, not only because of being pregnant, but had an early job. And, I maybe catch dinner with her, do something real quick. And then I had to go, I had to practice, I had to play, I had to do these things. So long story, slightly shorter, I end up putting this, tennis and the partners at tennis ahead of my life partner,
Yes.
my wife. And I couldn't see it. I wish somebody would have tapped me and said, "Hey, Damien, you're a moron. What are you doing?" Like
Yes.
how,
Yeah.
and if I looked at it clearly, which one's more important? And I wasn't confused about it. I didn't know it was my wife. And it unfortunately took, this, after we won state, we had to go to regional, and we were going to try to win through the whole region. But I promised that even if we won, I would quit. And, but anyway, the way it got scheduled, it was like on a Sunday, and we didn't know if it'd be later or earlier. And if it was earlier, we'd probably come back. And it was kind of in the middle. So I was riding with somebody else. It was up to them to decide. And we decided to drive back and get home at 2 or 3 a.m. And being the hard charger, I was like, I'm going to get back to work. Like I take a couple of days off. I got to get to work. I got to do this. And she was just like, I haven't been feeling this well over the weekend. Can you just I got to check up. It's a schedule and just take me. And I was like, well, but I got so much to do, And I was like, okay, I will.
Yeah.
But God used that moment. And if he didn't, I wouldn't have known, because when you go from a regular check-in to you need to go to the hospital to life moved in slow motion, because all of a sudden 5 nurses and doctors crowd around her.
Wow.
And then they wheel her away. And I don't quite remember what they said, but they said, look, either your child or your wife will die. We've got to go take her by.
Yeah.
And, they're caring for the patient. But I was like, who's going to care for me in that moment? And so there I left just wondering, I had what seemed like an eternity, which was probably close to an hour. And to think about where I had let my priorities get completely off track. And
Well, Damien,
I
couple
didn't know how
things.
to process that.
Well, you didn't, and you're describing though what is so common for so many of us, and probably a lot of your listeners. It's like we always think we have to pick. It's kind of either or. Do I pick work? Do I pick home? Do I have work-life balance and all these things? And I don't even know if that's even a great concept. I don't know if someone just made that up so we would work harder. I'm not really quite sure. But the way that I don't think work-life balance is a great word. I think work-life integration, and integration is not a great, like a catchy word, but it's the idea that work comes home with me healthily, and who I am at home comes with me to work healthily. It's the difference between
Mm,
severance, like I'm going to sever my brain and be a human doing and then go home and be a human being. It's impossible. It's like
mm-hmm.
we're not built like that.
Right.
And so what you described though is also, you're talking about so many of us that struggle with performance addiction. And we take a good thing and we make it the ultimate thing. We make it the thing we worship or the thing that fuels us because there's a payoff. You can go play a game of tennis and be like, I'm a champion. Or you can
Mm-hmm.
lose the game and then you can go play another one and be like, yeah, we did this. And you can get you can have a, teammate. You're like, we're killing it together. We're experiencing the endorphins and everything in your body is saying, I'm performing and I'm winning and I'm losing and I'm getting community and connection. And it's like intoxicating.
Yeah.
And sometimes work is intoxicating. It's like, I'm going to close this deal. I'm going to close this deal. I closed the deal. Oh my gosh, that's so amazing. And then you look around and these people you spend most of your time with at work, they're like celebrating. They're the culture that you are winning life with. And then you go home and you're like, oh, are you serious? I got to do my kids' math homework. And I had to do that the other night and I was like, dear Lord, this stuff is hard. Like, so then I'm like, is this my life? Man, I was getting praise for how amazing I was over here. And now I'm coming home because I'm trying to perform at home instead of come home. And doing your kids' math homework is not about doing your kids' math homework. It's an excuse to have an opportunity to sit with your child in a struggle that they have and to help their brain know that when you struggle, child, you can know that that me, parent, one who loves you unconditionally, will be with you, whether we complete this math problem or not. In my case, not. And so I could lose that and just go, gosh, let's just get this math problem done instead of like, hey Noah, come downstairs, come help me with Adia's math problem. Now there's three of us, and so I'm using performance for the purpose of connection. And it's a both and then also, like, on the other hand, if I'm so stuck though, like you said, you're almost missing your entire personal life because you've literally become addicted to the performance in that moment and you've lost sight of what you're doing it all for. And yet on the other hand, if we can also become addicted to the connection, and that's where some people get afraid from me when we go into companies and we work with leaders. They're like, well, what, is everyone going to become soft and they forget to know how to work? And I said, no, they learn how to work hard, but without neglecting love and care and the interpretation of what those words mean in a professional setting, which, by the way, actually increases your performance way more than not only good companies, not only great companies, but extraordinary companies are going to a whole new level of deliverables because they know how to appropriate love and care in the professional setting. That's the work that I get to do. And I just see myself doing a both and, an either or, trying to get to a both and. Like, I want to perform hard, but not at the expense of my humanity. I want to be fully human, but not at the expense of kicking around where we're all just like having a good time. I love you, Damien. We're amazing. Our friendship's amazing. Well, at some point, we got to go climb a mountain.
Mm-hmm.
At some point, we got to get off the porch and go do something. But if all
Yeah.
we're doing is sitting, or if all we're doing is doing, I don't think it's a either or. It's a both and. And I love your story. Thank you for sharing that vulnerability. Man, just I could feel it as you were telling me. I'm like, this is bad. This is bad. Wait, then you did what? Then you let them tell you when you drive home? You gave over the control? Oh gosh, this is so bad. But it
Yeah.
sounds like you had a moment of reckoning is too scary. You had a moment of accountability or reflection is probably what happened. That's so cool. Thanks for sharing that.
Yeah. Hopefully it doesn't take you that long to figure out, like your priorities, but boy, it's just, there's so many where it's just like, why am I not showing up in this way? I want to talk a little bit about, um, I've had the privilege of being in a check-in group with
Mm-hmm.
others, and where you've led and facilitated and even showed up in the group.
Yeah.
Um, And but I'd love to just, for everybody listening, talk either about that or how
Yeah.
you're teaching leaders, because just to do that, like it's been great for me personally. But I've also, I've sat there and said, well, does this make me a better leader? Does
Yeah.
this make me a better husband? Does
Hmm.
this make me a better father? And so I've needed, maybe I didn't need to, but I've questioned, should I spend my time there? Is this what I am
Hmm.
doing? Because am I just sitting around, or am I
Yeah.
doing something? Is this helping me
Yeah.
climb the
Yeah.
mountain? Um,
Yeah.
so I know that's something I'm familiar with. Do you want to describe, like, why are we even doing that and what it
Yes.
even means
Perfect.
to show up?
Well, most of us woke up today and we wanted to live a meaningful life, last time I checked. And you may have not thought that consciously, but you didn't wake up and be like, you know what? I want to really live an average, meaningless, terrible existence. You probably wanted more for who you are and the people that you live with. And yet we go out and we try to work for that. I'm going to think my way through it. And I'm going to work my way through it. And it actually gets you pretty far. But part of what we do is we look at an integrative approach to being a human being. It's like, well, what's it mean to be a healthy, whole human being? And it's not just about thinking smarter and working harder. There's more to us. And you can go to the Bible, you can go to philosophy, you can go to so many different other sources if you're not the Bible type. But in the end, there's this idea that we are heart, soul, mind, and strength. And so I wake up and our leadership model, the human operating system, is built on heart, soul, mind, and strength. And so we go into companies, leaders, teams, organizations, individuals, you name it. And we're trying to diagnose where the challenges are. Is this a mind problem or a heart problem or a soul problem or whatever it is? And we build all sorts of applications onto that. And it's really helpful. When my wife sits me down on the bed, like the story I told you, and she says, hey, you're doing great. You're killing it. Strength. You're bringing deliverables. But hey, it's lonely to be married to you. That's a heart diagnosis. That's a cultural challenge. That's a connective relational dynamic, which is connected to heart as we define it. And so what we've gone out and done is, and Damien, you've had the privilege of experiencing one of these, and so do I, is we build applications on each of those quadrants so that you can learn a language, come out of the obscurity of life. If I said to you, hey guys, what's leadership? Do you know how many different definitions we would get? It's like so many. But if we can all agree as a tribe, whoever our tribe is, that this is what we are going to define as the heart quadrant, and then this is how we're going to practice that language, and this is how that language is going to get expressed into the rest of our life, then we're starting to become a little less crazy, where I know what you mean. And you know what I mean, and we start to have a shared language. I came from South Africa. Coming here, my accent was a lot more thicker, and so I'd say words like water, and I'm trying to get my water put on, and they're like, "Wait, what, honey?" And I'm like, "Water. I got to get the water turned on." And they're like, "What are you saying?" And I'm like, "Water, water, like water." And so for me, the language was more about the accent and the nuances. But imagine going to a country with a different language and how frustrating it is. It's like you show up there and you're having a great time. Like, I wish I could speak Italian. It's just like I show up there and it's like, it's the most incredible country, but I feel like I'm missing 70% of what's happening around me because I'm clueless to the language. And so to actually get a shared language, what we do and have done and what Damien's talking to is we have these fighting for heart groups. And that's exactly what they are, fighting for heart. I mean, it doesn't show up for fun, like fighting for the gym. Like the gym doesn't accidentally happen. No one accidentally walks into the gym. Like you've got to like
Mm-mm.
fight for it. You got to grind. You got to pay the price. And emotional intelligence is exactly the same. We all want to be emotionally intelligent. And what I worked out is if I would go into a room, and I still do with leaders, and I'll say, who wants to be emotionally intelligent? All the hands go up. I go, awesome. Uh, who's doing anything specific about becoming more emotionally intelligent as a leader? Hands go down, maybe one or two. And then I'm like, well, what is emotional intelligence? And the definitions that come out are like very, very fractional. It's like, well, self awareness, uh, being able to something, and it's such a limited definition. And so what we're doing is, man, we have leaders across the country that for 1 hour a week we go to the gym. and we practice learning how to express what's going on inside of us, identify it, learn how to say it out loud, learn how to process it, so that we can leave the emotion, which is not what we want to be driven by. Trust me, I don't want my feelings to drive me, but they're not going anywhere. So I
Mm-hmm.
can't really throw them off the bus. They somehow manage to grab to the underside of the bus, climb in the back window, and start causing trouble again. So I'd much rather identify who are they, what are they doing on the bus, what do they have to say, but they don't get to drive the bus. So we're learning how to articulate what we're feeling so we can emotionally intelligently process those in ways that feel less crazy, and we feel less alone. And before you know it, I'm learning how to be more, aware of what's happening. Oh my gosh, as I'm sitting on this podcast, I'm noticing fear creep in. Am I sharing the things that I should be sharing? Is this what the audience would want? The fear,
Mm-hmm.
just all the fear is saying is, hey, discern whether the fear is real. And a healthy amount of fear actually increases performance. It actually makes you prepare. It actually keeps me
Yeah.
vigilant. So now my fear takes me to discernment. And then if my discernment is like, yeah, Rob, you're off base, well, then my fear then goes to a place of kind of safety, refuge, protection. And I go, all right, Damien, what do you think? And I take the conversation back to you because you're the safest place on this podcast to bring it back to where it needs to be. And all of that was because I had the feeling of fear that opened me up to discern whether the fear was real. If the fear is real, I need safety and security. I come to you, someone who is more safe and secure. And that emotion has become more intelligent and led me to something positive. Option B is I just let it run with me and I get anxious, I get controlling, and I sit around wondering the whole time. And that's what fear does. So you and I are showing up to it. 12 feelings. We have 12 core feelings. There's hundreds of
Mm-hmm.
feelings. But if you take primary colors, it's amazing with 3 primary colors what you can do. So we have 12 primary colors, and then we learn how those colors work. And I figure most of the feelings can fit into those in some way, shape, or form. And if they can't, we have a B list of feelings, and there's plenty of them. Some of them are a little colorful.
Yeah. No, I was reading Fighting for Heart, your second book recently, and even though I've been doing some of the feelings work, which has just been amazing, it's still hard for me to realize there's good fear and not just bad fear. Cause then it's like
Yeah.
fear is bad, or
Mm-hmm.
even harder for me. I was like, how can shame be good?
Mm-hmm.
How can some of the,
Yeah.
there's some of these guilt or shame. It's just like, I
Yeah.
feel like in the 12, I could say these are the good feelings,
Yeah.
like
Yeah. Yeah.
excited. Excited is a good feeling and shame is a bad one. But you're helping me understand is there's some of us. So help
Yeah.
unpack that.
Yeah. So I'll list them, but you'll get an opportunity to see them. But it's like the 12 core feelings are, again, they came out through my doctoral research. They came out through aggregating a lot of core emotion frameworks, the research and so forth. So I try to condense it down, but you've got, I feel afraid. I feel confident, lost, angry, excited, guilty. Sometimes excitement and guilt live real close together. Uh, Ashamed. I feel cared for. I feel hurt. I feel sad. I feel calm and lonely. Now, that may sound like a lot, but it's only 12 feelings of hundreds we could probably have that have been labeled. And the sad part is most people in business barely know how to say more than 3 or 4 feelings. How are you feeling? Angry, pissed off,
Mm-hmm.
annoyed. I'm great. I mean, great's not even a feeling, it's a posture, but that's the one that we seem to know how to use. So I'll answer your question this way. When you look at those feelings, are they good or bad? What if I said to you, that's probably the wrong metric to measure them by? They just
Mm-hmm.
kind of, feelings just are. I don't know what to tell you. And you're going to have feelings about me telling you that.
Mm-hmm.
If you don't have feelings, you're a sociopath or psychopath. So we've got like some bigger challenges to work through.
Right.
Feelings are part of the human experience, whether you like it or not. You can shove them away, pretend they're not there. You can dismiss them. You can avoid them. But then no movie will ever be great. No relationship will ever mean anything. Like you have to dismiss every part of your humanity that is wired to have emotion that's connected to the experience of life. So I don't look at feelings, whether they're good or bad. I just look at them as something that is. And that's why for us, this emotional intelligence work's really frustrating because we're actually just managing something that is, that can never be fixed, can never be won like your tennis match, and can never ever go away until probably the day you pass away. And I'm not sure how feelings work on the other side, but I'll tell you this much: I'm going to be feeling these things for the rest of my life. So what if these 12 feelings can help me be more structured, um, more aware, more informed, and more connected to what's going on inside of me? And so when I look at a feeling like guilty, I don't know, Damien's guilty feel good? Is it a good feeling? Guilty sure as heck doesn't feel like a good feeling, but I'm glad you feel guilty. And here's what I
Mm.
mean by that. Imagine I was in business with you and you screwed me over with something, or you actually said you would do something and you didn't do something, but then you don't know how to access your guilt. You'd be a terrible business partner. I
Yeah.
want to be with a business partner who feels guilt, because guilt
Mm.
just says, I did something wrong, and it opens up the opportunity to the confession of asking for forgiveness. Hey, Damien, I said I would do A, B, and C, and I didn't. I'm really sorry. I I really apologize. Would you forgive me? I want to be a man of my word. So it's not a great feeling, but I'm glad you have it, which makes it something that is. I think of shame. You said shame. Uh, Brene Brown, Susan David, a lot of these others, they do a lot of work on shame. And shame is often spun. No one wants to feel shame.
Hmm.
And shame is a miserable feeling. I put a nice shame blanket on myself daily. I find myself like, "Ooh, that shame blanket's on. Let me figure out how to address it." But what if at its core, yes, shame is not a great feeling. It's not a good feeling. But sometimes shame helps me remember that I'm just a human being. And I'm not talking about toxic shame that says you're less than a human being.
Mm.
There's a differentiation between, Damien, shame on you. Like I'm almost kicking you out of the human race. Like you're an animal. Like how dare you? You're less than human being. Shame could just say, you know what, Rob? I don't think you got what it takes. And no matter how hard you try to fix this problem, and no matter how hard you think you're going to make it happen, you don't have what it takes. What if
Mm.
the acceptance of that shame is okay? Because then shame opens you to humble yourself to your humanity, which we don't want to. We all want to be either, better than a human being, or we feel like we're less than human. But right there in the middle is a healthy sense of shame. I'm just a human being. I'm doing the best I can, and my best is not good enough. But then that humility invites me to reach for help. Hey, Damien, I just realized I don't have what it takes to pull this project off. I'm feeling a lot of shame that I don't have the tools, the resources, or the intelligence. My shame has humbled me to the point where I get you on the phone and I go, Damien, could you help me? Could you help me with this project? There's something about who you are and what you could bring. And so my shame was the feeling that opened me up to reach for the help that I needed to be human being, but rather than fall short, to be better. So when I notice shame, I don't like it. I don't want it, but I have
Hmm.
it and I divert it towards reaching for the things that I need help with. Every one of those feelings, those 12 feelings, do that for you. You feel lost? Man, I'm so glad you know you're lost. Ever been in the car with someone who's lost but won't admit it? Ever
Yeah.
worked for an executive CEO who's so disconnected and detached from the workforce? They're super lost, but they won't admit it because they're in control.
Mm.
I'm glad you feel lost. Lost opens you up to something, opens you up to something, and before you know it, you found your way through. And it's like everyone's excited because once I was lost and now I'm found. Woohoo! So I want to know when I'm lost. I'm lost as a parent, lost as a friend. And so these 12 emotions, we're getting good as executive leaders, managers, anyone who's waking up to want more for their life. We're learning how to identify what we're feeling, say it out loud, and then intelligently learn through the experience of the work what these feelings can do to open us up to the life we actually want, which is more meaning, purpose, connection, and to really get out there and get it done, but without losing our hearts and souls in the process. I think that's what we do weekly. Doesn't seem like it, but that's what we're doing. Would you agree?
Yeah. 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 Getting back to who we really are, meaning, I love that you said meaning, purpose, and connection, because I think that's part of what I'm searching for still, finding
Yes.
some and still searching for some. And then what hit me is, I would teach my kids, it's okay to, and I do teach my kids, it's okay to fail. And, it's okay. It's not okay to not try. It's not okay to not show up and give it your best, but you can fail. And if you have, guilt or shame or others that, maybe we could access those. Maybe we could learn
Yeah.
that those are okay. But all at the same time, that I might be teaching the kids that the later in that day or earlier in that
Yeah.
day, I got to be superhuman.
Yeah.
I got to be the best at this. I got to, rise above what others have to do, right? That kind of
Yeah.
performance addiction.
Yeah.
Because it's, in my opinion, it's hard to sit with your humanity. It's
Yeah.
much easier for me to teach to my kids or something that, it's okay to fail than,
Yes.
than to sit with it.
Yes. Well, let me ask you a question. And so again, there's probably a lot of you out there that are working really hard today, and you could be waking up knowing that today's going to be a tough day. You've got some shame about the day. Like, I don't think I have enough for this. Or maybe you've been given a project that's just more than you can handle. And actually you failed the project. Like, you didn't pull it off. But now when we fail, you just said to your kids, it's okay if you fail. Well, that may not be true for some kids, because a lot of us, sometimes it's not okay to fail. I was in a restaurant a few years ago, and right up on the board there in the kitchen, it said failure is not an option.
Mm.
And so here's Damien telling his kids, you can fail, but then they go work for a company that says failure is not an option. And the only way that you can feel comfortable feeling shame and fear and experiencing failure and all these things is if you truly believe it's okay to fail, that part of failure is an option. Because and I'm not talking about neglect and you're just being incompetent, but to actually go out and fail is what you have to do to innovate, create, inspire, break new ground, build new businesses. You have to be able to fail. But you
Mm-hmm.
have to trust that you're failing back onto a foundation. The reason you tell your kids they can fail is because if they go out into the world and come and fail and come back to the house, they know that they're seen, they're loved, not just for what they do, but who they are. You are with them and for them. Like, that's why your kids can fail, because they've got the safety and security of all these things. Unfortunately, so many of us know that when we fail, with the story we tell ourselves, which sometimes is a true story, that we're going to be kicked out of the club, we're going to be fired, we're going to be let go, we're going to be punished, we're going to be shamed, we're going to have our noses rubbed in it. Like, wow, Damien, you idiot. Why do you think that project was going to work? And why are you so terrible at doing projects? And then Damien goes, well, I guess I'm just going to learn how to lie, hide, cheat, steal, blame. And then we're wondering why we have a culture problem.
Mm.
So part of the work that I do with leaders, teams, and organizations is helping them learn how to fail well and allow the culture of failure to be the very gold that builds the organizations that they desperately want. And how much better for me to come to you and say, hey, Damien, I failed. And you to say, okay, uh, did you fail because you're incompetent, or did you fail because you tried and your strategy didn't work? I think it was the strategy didn't work. Okay, great. What do you need from me? I think I need inspiration and insight on a better strategy. Or I need to know if we're abandoning the project altogether. Okay. My failure becomes a teaching opportunity. You and I become more bonded as coworkers, and our company thrives. And then in 3 weeks from now, when another project comes up, I say, oh, hold on. Here's what I learned from my failure. Here are 5 things that I learned from my failure. Here is my failure report. How many of you are writing failure reports? It's the
Right.
most unbelievable gift a company could have is a failure report. Oh, no, 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 no. I want to show everyone I'm the top. Well, you only got to the top because you failed so many times. And the story I tell sometimes is I'm not a baseball guy. I work with a lot of baseball players. But there was a story about Babe Ruth that you may or may not have heard in different, I don't know if it's books or where I picked it up. But Babe Ruth won two records in one year, the most home runs and the most strikeouts. So I love that message when it comes to failure. So if you can't feel, if you're not willing to feel the shame and fear and the guilt of failure, you're probably never going to be Babe Ruth. You're going to never have the most home runs. Every time he stepped up to the plate, what was he thinking? I got to get to first base? Hell no. That dude was like, dude, I'm going to
Mm,
put this ball over those, what did they have back then? They must have had stadium seating or something over the
yeah.
stands. That's what I was looking for. So he gets up to the plate. He goes, I'm going to put that ball over the stands or I'm going to strike out and go back to the base. I mean, not to the base, back to the dugout. Man, I better learn my vocabulary. Like I'm losing the plot in this baseball game. So I share all that to say, what if he was like, well, I don't want to fail? Well, he could have been the most amazing batter who got to first base, but he sure as heck wouldn't have won the most home runs.
Hmm.
And not all of us have match temperament to strike out the most, but you can't have it all. So we're learning as
Right.
leaders to do this work and experience the gift that every one of these feelings brings.
So how do I, so we're gonna have the 12 feelings, in the
Yep.
description, right? So as you're listening along, or you go back and access it, how do I take this into my world? How do I practice
Uh-huh.
this with my family, with my team? Do I start it by being vulnerable? Do I start by teaching some of this? What do you recommend?
Well, so many of us like to teach things we've never experienced. And I as a semi-intellectual in the research, but also I'm an action researcher. So I like the research, but I like the work in the ground. So I'm probably not entrenched in it. I love to tell you concepts, theories, ideas. We can spew off information. If you're going to look at 12 feelings and go, nailed it, got it, you haven't got it. Your
Mm,
brain may have it. Your frontal lobe may understand and it may conceive what's going on. But the other parts of your brain and your limbic system, your experiential system, hasn't conceptualized what we're doing. So some of the things I often say to people, and it's this idea of credit card leadership. I'm noticing credit card leadership is super powerful right now. It's this idea that I'm going to come up with something that I've never got for myself. I've never experienced this, but it's an idea or a concept, and I'm going to put it in the most shiny, easy to message form, and I'm going to go teach everyone about these concepts, like trust. Man, we really need to trust each other. Here are 3 ways to trust each other. I will listen to your 3 talks and I will ignore you because trust has so much less to do with your 3 points than what it feels like for me to have this deep sense of distrust. In the same way this feelings work, I I would say your next step is to do the work. It's like you could have a great gym membership, a great gym program, but if you don't lift the weights, you're not going to get healthy. Like, yeah,
mm,
but you should look at my workout plan. It's really cool. The guy next to you doesn't have a workout plan, but he's lifting the weights and he looks really good at the pool. And I'm like, nah, I'm nailing the midlife dad look. It's just not exactly what he's got, but I got a great workout plan. So I would say you got to jump in and do the work. I want to say this to business leaders because people often think, oh, what is he selling us? A bunch of feelings? No. Are you joking? I don't want to do this work. And yet I do it every day. It's inevitable, but I actually want to sell you the outcomes of the work. And I keep using this gym metaphor, and I use it a lot because I'm shaming myself to go to gym. It's part of my own recovery package. But I want to sell you on becoming a human being that feels more seen, more valued, more connected to yourself and the people you love, serve, and care about and lead. I want you to be someone who has a more meaningful life. I want you to be someone who is aware of what's happening in your life rather than your life happening to you. So many of us are being lived by life instead of living our lives. And if you want that, a more meaningful, connective, deep life, yes, I want that. Great. Well, feelings work is one of the things you're going to need alongside the other things you're going to need to do the work. So you need to get into the trenches. You can become a more emotionally resilient, connected, intelligent human being. There are so many outcomes that I can sell you, but it's got to start with looking at those 12 emotions. And here is like entry level 101. Look at those 12 emotions and try to say out loud to yourself. I mean, if it's another human being, great, but don't perform for them. You know what? I feel real sad. I feel angry. I'm feeling lonely. I'm feeling confident. And I'm feeling cared for.
Mm.
Well, great, Rob. That sounds like a bunch of whatever. No, that's the start of emotional intelligence. I don't know how else you're going to get there. I mean, you can be
Mm.
intellectually intelligent about emotional intelligence, but what about just actually becoming emotional intelligent? If you can't even identify what you're feeling, you haven't even made it to like the first base, back to the baseball analogy. And so I sit there and I go, that's what I'm feeling. And then I want to move to moving. The first step is, can I make contact with what I'm feeling? Then it's like, well, can I communicate it to myself and others? And then thirdly is, can I start to connect with that emotion? Oh, really, Damien? You're feeling really hurt today? Tell me about your hurt. Well, what are you, Rob? Are you telling me I need to go around and tell my boss that I'm hurt by him and all this stuff? Um, there are appropriate contextualized ways to tell your boss you're hurt by him. Yes. It's a very different way to tell a friend. It's a very different way to tell a spouse or a child. There are
Mm.
times where I have to tell my children I'm hurt by them. You know, you what you did, that hurt me. Well, I don't want to show my kids that. Oh, okay. I mean, if you want to raise them again as a socio-psychopath, I mean, that's your choice. I want to raise my children in a way that they understand that their actions hurt other people.
Mm.
Um, I don't want to put it on them. So we're learning to identify these feelings, and then we're learning to communicate them and connect with others. Oh, I'm so sorry, Dad. How did I hurt you? My kid's learning to ask more. Instead of become
Mm.
defensive, they're saying, oh, I hurt you? Tell me more. Well, you made those jokes around your friends, and it's not a big deal, but I just realized, it didn't feel real good.
Mm.
Uh, and I think it's tied to my story about this and this and this. And I just realized, like, I don't need you to pretend, but I also don't want to be the butt of the joke. That just
Yeah.
kind of doesn't feel good. Oh, sorry, Dad. Sorry, I didn't mean to do that. Or guilt. I meant to do that. Would you forgive me? And so we're learning how to be emotionally intelligent, and people are doing this work, and so am I. But you show up, Damien, along with others, once a week, 1 hour a week. For years, we've been doing it
Mm. Yeah.
because you don't win this thing, unfortunately.
Yeah. Yeah. I love the gym analogy. You got to keep
Yeah,
showing up.
got to
And I
keep
think a lot
showing
like
up.
the gym, like I get impatient. And what I want is I want to skip the gym for a year. And then when I want the result, I want to go and spend 24 hours
Yeah,
working out and
yeah,
then have the body or have the result.
yes,
And that's not how it works, right? It doesn't work that way. The gym doesn't work that way here. It's that consistency of showing up and getting in the trenches. I can say personally, like there's a lot of things that have been eye-opening to me and confusing. Like in the 12
yes,
feelings, one of them is anger or angry. And
yeah,
again, that's one I would normally assign as a bad feeling or a
yeah,
negative feeling.
yeah, yeah.
But there like you've taught me there's good to both sides. The other thing that was really unconventional for me was anger is healthy. And I don't mean just I'm raging against you, but right, just
Yeah,
the anger to be talking about feelings with you right now, and the anger to do the work I'm
yeah,
doing, and the anger to
yeah,
be with my kids, meaning that I want to be there. I'm fired up,
yes,
and it just helped me understand. Like I feel that, and then
yes,
so there's been some really good takeaways personally, and then it took me forever to come with more than two or three feelings,
yes,
and I knew I have more work to do because it's not about how many feelings you feel, but it's, you're teaching me to slow down. And that's one of the things, if you're thinking about doing this, slow down, put your phone on, do not disturb,
Yeah.
and, give yourself a couple minutes uninterrupted to, to feel how you feel,
Yeah.
in the group that we're talking about, right? Everybody's there's a couple takeaways that have been transformative to me. One is I just don't know anywhere else you show up and they talk about
Yes.
feelings. Two, they give you the space, because it's not like you have 30 seconds to decide how you feel, go, which I feel like is kind of how our performance culture would
Yeah.
set things up. And then lastly, the thing that's been transformative to me, there's others, but is, I don't want everybody to miss this, because man, I love to help. I love to solve, especially as a kind of I love to feel needed in solving or helping with things. And then being in a technical business, if I can help solve a problem or fix a thing, maybe it's just being a man. Like I want to feel useful in a solving. So when you share, right, my natural reaction is like, my wife says, I'm frustrated because of this. Oh, well, why don't you tell that person this? Why don't you do this way?
Yes.
And that's been a huge takeaway is, what you teach in the groups, Rob, is it's okay to feel. And, what you've taught us in the groups is, and what's become powerful is I can show up with feelings and share them. And I can choose whether to explore them more deeply or not. But even bigger, I'm not asking to be fixed.
Yeah.
And I think, at least from my experience in our culture, if it doesn't matter if it's my wife or my child or somebody on my team or a friend, if they share something with me, it's either surface level, how are you? Great. Yeah, me too. Or if it's anything deeper than that, then I want to fix it. I want to tell them, there's this book I read by this smart guy, Rob. If you just do that, you'd have it all figured out. There's this other book I read that tells you how to solve this, leadership issue. And so I think there's just a lot of value in sitting with your feelings.
Well, Damien, let me respond to that. I don't mind people fixing feelings. In fact, because I don't mind that. I just want to hold the tension a little longer and then find out if that's what you actually want. And we make a lot of assumptions. So one is, oh, you're feeling that? Well, shoot, now I feel awkward with you, so I'm going to fix you. So we throw fix-its on people so we don't have to feel. Well, what if you have feelings? Now I have feelings. Now I'm going to shut this thing down. And my strategy is read this book or do this thing or here's my advice. But what that does is it leaves the other person with just a moment of time to speak or to share. And so your relationship with them is very limited. It's like you have a few points that you can connect on, but you can't go kind of higher or lower than that. It's like, yeah, how you doing, Rob? Yeah, things are a little tough right now at work. Well, you'll pull through. And I'm like, oh, okay, cool. Thanks, man. And the truth is, maybe I needed that encouragement, but you know what? I still feel terrified. I feel lonely. But then I can go to another friend and say, man, he goes, how's things going? And I go, terrible at work. And he goes, tell me about it. I'd love to hear. I've got 5 minutes. Or maybe he goes, I got 50 minutes. Or maybe he says, man, I'd love to take you for lunch. So then that person, I go, ooh, he's giving me 5 minutes. Like he's showing me the capacity he has to sit with me in my life before he's going to prescribe a fix or whatever it is. And then the most healthy, emotionally intelligent people that I'm starting to notice are catching themselves from assuming what you need in your feelings. But they are trying to move you. Like I move people. That's the difference between therapeutic work. I'm not here to take you into a fetal position in the shower where you're like living out your, all your childhood trauma. But I also don't want to be a sterile consultant who's like, all right, Damien, you're angry about work. Here are 5 ways to crush it. I want to be the bridge that connects the human to the work, but is moving you forward. And so maybe if you say, man, Rob, I'm feeling this. And I say, well, Damien, I got 10 minutes. Why don't you tell me more? You tell me for 10 minutes. Your nervous system goes, everything comes down and you go, oh my gosh, there's another human being on planet Earth that sees me, listens to me, has given me the dignity of being a human being to express the fullness of who I am, not just what I can do for the world. Wow. Like you feel like unbelievably seen and appreciated. And then at the end of that 10 minutes, instead of me prescribing you something, I may instead do this. Damien, what do you need to move forward in the story or the feelings you just shared? What do you need to move forward? And now I'm bringing an accountability for you to force something into focus. And you go, well, I don't know what I need. And I could say, great, let's think about it. You pause for a minute. You're like, no, I'm going to be fine. I go, you may not be fine.
Mm-hmm.
If that's what you tell yourself. And so you then eventually go, well, I guess I need some help, and I guess I need more advice, or I guess I need just to be heard. I don't know. You start to identify what you need. Now I can respond to that appropriately. Because maybe I said, well, Damien, I do have some advice for you. Can I offer you advice? Oh, I'd love that. So it's more you are now asking for what you need. I am answering something you said instead of saying, you know what, Damien, read this book. And you're like, man, I really didn't want advice. I just wanted someone to see me.
Mm.
So those are kind of the things we're learning how to do. And I know it could either sound really complicated to you today or it could sound really simple to you. But these are the building blocks on what we're doing. And ultimately, you're going to leave after those 10 minutes, expressed what you feel, identified what you need, and then you are being held accountable to moving towards the life you want to live. And I may say, all right, Damien, I'm going to call you up next week and follow up to see if that's what you are moving towards. Come to find out you didn't do anything about it. So you got feelings about a life you want, things you want and need, but you're not doing anything about it. Hey, it's your life. I mean, I'm just your friend. I'll just keep walking with you, and I'll show up until eventually I'll get angry with you.
Right.
And angry will say, I want more for you than what you want for yourself. And that'll either inspire you or it will create a moment for you to realize you maybe aren't angry enough, desiring enough, passionate enough for this work in your life.
The thought of feelings is already scary. And then I think the thought of feelings I'm going to invite my team to share feelings.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to bring this into a one-on-one because I care about them. So I want to say, how are you feeling? But then part of me goes, now I'm going to check in with scared. I have a fear because if they show up with feelings, first of all, I'm not sure I feel comfortable with what to do with those. And I think second of all, kind of like you said, you're not here to, solve your childhood trauma. And then you're not here to give these empty, consultant top 5 ways. And I think kind of in a similar vein, there's a spectrum where like, I want to help my team grow. I don't know that I'm qualified in any way to help you with childhood trauma or the right person there. I'm not sure that I just want to throw, I'm not sure that I want to know, the details of intricacy of your marriage. But on the other hand, I want a deep relationship with you. I want to know you.
Yeah.
I don't want to just throw consulting things at you. So what do I do when I ask for these feelings? And then I get them. I ask, how are you feeling? And they check in. And then it's like, oh, God, Rob's feeling, hurt, overwhelmed. Like, and I know overwhelmed isn't one of the 12, but gosh, I'm going to get that one a lot, when you're growing fast as a company, right? So then they're going to say something. And then it's either a feeling on there that I don't know what to do with hurt, or then it's not on Rob's list. So I'm going to probably tell you can't check in with that feeling because I don't know. It didn't make the list.
Yeah. Yeah. You're describing something. This is really important in our work is number one is this is why you do the work yourself. You go to the gym because you know what it takes to lift those weights. You know how hard it is. And then when someone else shows up, you have an experience with this. But I'll say this, boundaries and having the right appropriate boundaries around this work is vital. And so there is a way for me to sit at work, Damien, and say, if you were working for me to say, hey, Damien, you look like you got a lot going on. What's going on? So now what's going on is I'm looking for circumstantial. Mm-hmm. And you're like, well, I got 7 projects and this is happening and this client and this and that. So that's a very safe workplace question. Like, tell me what's going on. So I may then want to take it a little further and because I want you to connect to what's going on. Because I believe if you can connect who you are as a person to what you're doing as a person, I just think you make a more, you're just a stronger human being. So then I may say, well, Damien, how are you feeling about all of that? And as you notice, how are you feeling about all of that? I directed the feelings towards the project. So that's a very nuanced strategy. I want to find out what's going on, and then I want the feelings as it relates to what's going on. Instead of, Damien, how are you feeling about your life? Now, if I'm in a more of a relational cultural development, and you and I were on a team, and I actually wanted to just to see your life, and I said, Damien, how are you feeling about your life right now? You may say, well, things at home are tough and this, and you start checking in with all these feelings. Then I realize, well, that one's not appropriate for me at work. That one's not appropriate for me as his boss. So I'm not gonna take the bait. And I'm not gonna go, oh my gosh, are you serious? Tell me more. No, I realize that we are not family. We are friends only within the context of work. So we're not really friends, which is not a bad thing. It's just healthy boundaries.
Yeah.
So then I may say, wow, it sounds like you have a lot going on at home. I hope you have great friends to process that with. Which of the things you're feeling have to do with some of the things that are going on here at work? So I'm immediately, I'm not afraid to hear it all. But if you start going on and on about stuff that you shouldn't be going on and on about with me, I'm also not going to shame you, but I'm going to say, Damien, whoa, 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 slow down, slow down. It sounds like there's a lot there. I got to be honest, I'm not going to be very much help. I highly encourage you to find some people close in your circle that can process. That sounds like a lot. Thank you for letting me know. As it relates to work, though, what do you need? Well, I need some help in this project. Okay, tell me how you feel about it. Well, I feel overwhelmed. Okay, say more. Now, I may want to hear 3 minutes more because I'm their boss. So I want to be able to understand, why are the people that are working for me overwhelmed? Is that a leadership problem? Is that a capacity problem? Is that an emergency problem? Is it a structural problem? But if you can't listen to someone tell you why they're overwhelmed for 3 minutes, you just missed out diagnosing all of those things, which I believe is what an emotionally intelligent leader should be able to do. And so after 3 minutes, I go, ooh, okay, got it. And then I say, whoa, hold on, Damien, tell me more about that one. And you go on for another 3 minutes. And then you get done, and then I don't have to fix you. All I have to say is, Damien, what do you need from me? What's your plan to work through this overwhelmedness? So I'm consistently putting people's feelings back onto them to take responsibility for them. But I'm not saying it's your problem. I'm saying I'm with you, but it's yours. Now, of course, if you're overwhelmed and your strategy is terrible to get through it, it's going to be on me pretty soon.
Yeah.
So my feeling of fear is, oh shoot, Damien's strategy to get out of this issue sucks, and I don't think he's going to pull it off. So my fear says, well, hold on, Damien, can I show up? I'm a little afraid that your strategy isn't going to work. And all that feeling work is getting us closer and closer to a better strategy. And then we leave the room with a better strategy, and the worker is less overwhelmed. I feel more secure in my leadership. I'm aware of where everything's coming from. And it's not like, well, everyone's overwhelmed. It's not all vague and confusing. It's like, work is tough. People are overwhelmed. We've diagnosed it as a structural problem. Here is the strategy that we're going to walk through to try to adjust the structural problem. And we're going to evaluate in 3 weeks from now as to whether people are still feeling overwhelmed. That's like using this work. Oh, and by the way, his marriage is falling apart and he's going through a divorce. But that just means that he's going to be distracted. He's going to be exhausted, overwhelmed. He's going to have his own set of personal problems that he's bringing into this project. We have to be mindful of that, but we are not responsible for that. We can love and care for him appropriately within the context of a workplace environment. Oh my gosh. Like, I don't know, is this rocket science or is this just basic humanity? But I don't see this happening in companies.
Yeah,
I'm
I
angry
think
about this
that,
work, by the way. That's angry. That's angry. Passionate. Like, I
yeah,
want this for you.
yeah, I love that your passion bleeds through. And I think that, the vocabulary and getting in the gym and practicing the feeling work helps because there's been a lot of cases where it's like somebody know, like a few people know, or some people on the team know that, this person's going through a divorce. This person's
Yeah.
going through this. And like we all know in basic humanity that you're probably not going to show up the same when you're going through that, when you're losing a parent, when you're going like through a big life event. I think most of us that are decent people, you want to know how to care. You're willing to pick up some of the work for them to help. But
Yes.
you want to, I think, at least I do, want to understand them and let them know that you know, that you want to understand, that you want to
Yes.
kind of be along in that journey.
Damien, I won't harbor on this, but I've been back in this research, and I already mentioned it briefly on this podcast, so it's fresh. Um, they're called firms of endearment. And some of that research that's come out around this over the last 10, 15 years has basically shown that firms of endearment, we all know good to great. And Jim Collins did a fantastic job of this idea of what takes a good company makes it a great company. Well, firms of endearment are outperforming great companies 4-1.
So say that again, because my brain keeps wanting to hear terms, but firms of endearment, right?
Firms, yeah. There's the
Yeah,
accent
yeah.
kicking in, right?
No. It's
Yeah,
not the accent. It's
yeah.
just like, that's just an odd phrase. Like my brain's not used to
Firms,
processing,
yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
companies or
Firms,
firms of endearment. Okay.
firms of endearment. So let's change that to companies, to teams, to leaders of endearment.
Yeah.
Like, I want to be a leader of endearment, a team of endearment. I want to have a culture of endearment. If if the research is saying that those kinds of approaches, doing whatever they're doing, is outperforming great companies 3-4 to 1,
That's
what do
huge.
they have? Okay,
Yeah.
so my brain's going, I don't care if you like people or not, but if I could tell you you're going to make more money caring for people, well then that's fine. It's a win-win. You get your money, but your people get taken care of, which and so I'll take it either way. We live in a capitalistic society. Things go awry. Sometimes people are exploited, but if they're getting exploited by love and care, those are the two ingredients. Love and care. Care is what is missing in organizations, and if you can appropriate love and care, your performance will go through the roof.
Mm-hmm.
Let me tell you, do you perform better while you're being whipped, told that you're nothing, and you have to prove your worth? Now, on the other side, if you're just told you're amazing, but you're never expected anything, nothing's ever expected of you, everyone gets a gold medal, you're going to be presumptuous, entitled, and lazy. But
Mm-hmm.
somewhere in the middle, there is a way to say, Damien, I need you to perform at the highest level.
Mm-hmm.
And at this organization, we invest in love and care. Now, we have to be careful because love and care is not like what you have at home. So we have to create the definition of love and care that's appropriate to a workplace environment. Because I may love and care about you, but I'm still going to fire you.
Mm-hmm.
You may be loved and cared for on a Major League Baseball team or a Major League Soccer team, but if you don't perform, they trade you or they kick you out of the team. So your love is contingent on performance. So we want to find out. That's my challenge. I'm trying to do this right now. What is the definitions of love and care that could be appropriate for me to continue my work with the companies we work with, like Ashley Furniture or these other companies we work with, to say, here is how you can spend leadership development dollars on love and care that will actually increase your bottom line. And I just believe part of love and care is being able to have an emotional intelligence enough to say, Damien, how are you? How are you feeling right now?
Mm-hmm.
And if I can't even say that, but you know how to give me my next like strategic initiative, and you don't really seem to care about who I am, what I'm doing, how I'm feeling, it will feel transactional. But I'm also
Mm-hmm.
not looking for you to hold me and rock me like a baby.
Right. Uh,
I want to know that you see me, you cherish me, you value me, and you expect me to get to work.
Love that. Love and care. Maybe conditional love, since it's not unconditional. You have to perform.
Yeah, and I don't even mind the word conditional love.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're right. Because that's going back to trust. If I said to you, Damien, working at my company, we value love. By the way, it's a conditional love.
Mm-hmm.
The love at this company looks like this. You would say, "Ooh, I don't like that. I don't like the way he said that," but I know it's true.
Mm-hmm.
So would you trust me more because I told the truth? Or would you trust me less? You would trust me more. You would know,
That's right.
Rob says hard things, but he tells the truth, and I don't guess. Instead of, "Oh, Damien, we really love you at this company," and then we do something that shows you we don't love you,
That's
and then
right.
you go, "Ooh, I can't trust these people."
How this has been amazing, Rob. So if folks
Yeah,
want to
thanks,
get
Damien.
more of this, if they want to, by the way, Human Operating System is the first book you're going to check out. Fighting for
Yeah, human
Heart
operating system.
is the most recent, I believe. And I hear you're working on a third book.
Yeah. This is the human operating system. Think of this as the chessboard. We're working on a third book. The title is still yet to be chosen, but I'm really excited about it. And then actually have one more in the hopper and the assessment. So I think if people want to dive in, you have to take one step towards something,
Mm,
and we have to do that every day. Like you got to be choosing intentionality towards emotional, mental health. You got to do something. And I can convince you, I can show you everything you need to tell you it is worth doing it because it will improve who you are as a person, both at home and work. So, you know, whether it's fightingforheart.com or transformleader.com, which is our consulting firm, or somehow following Dr. Rob Murray online somewhere. I'm terrible online. I don't know how to do all that stuff. But wherever it is, to start to say yes to something. I'm curious. I want to know more. What does that step look like for me? I think is vital. And there's two types of people in my work, which I'm sure it's universal. It's you're either going to be responsive or reactive.
mm,
You're either going to respond to something that's coming for you and an opportunity, or you're going to have to react. It's too late. Now we're cleaning up the pieces. And we'll do a good job cleaning up the pieces, but you're still cleaning up the pieces. So I try to do a little bit of both. There's parts of my life today that I need to respond to, and there are parts of my life that I need to react to. And I have a clear pathway. I have people that I trust who will walk those pathways with me. And as a result, hopefully by the end of tonight, when I put my head down on the pillow, I will be able to say I was intentional. I was a part of living my life today, not just allowing life to live me. And it's producing outcomes that I really, really want in this life, which is more connection, meaning, and purpose with the people that I love and work with.
that's awesome. Rob, I just thank you for the gift of being here. I will just practice a little bit of what you're teaching and kind of check in. I think I started with a
Yeah,
lot of feelings of just excited, a little bit of fear,
yeah,
a little bit of
yeah,
afraid. Now I think there's
yeah,
a lot of excited.
yeah.
There is some anger for more of this in myself, in my
Yes.
team, in my world, and there's cared for. Um,
Mm.
so I really appreciate you helping me even have the language to use that. Um,
Yeah, you're welcome. And I'm going to throw one on you. Try not to throw feelings on people, but I'll do it today because I'm going to throw confidence on you, Damien. You are. I just see more of a confidence in who you are because you're doing this work. Like you've got the money in the bank. Like you're not making up stuff today. So I see a confidence in you to lead others, including me, to places we've never been because you're doing the work. So I'm throwing that one at you.
I appreciate that. Um, Thank you for being on MSP Mindset, Rob.
You're welcome.
Guys, don't miss the opportunity to pick up a book of Fighting for Heart or the Human Operating System. Get connected. We're going to have all the links and the 12 feelings and everything in the description. So check out the notes and make sure not to miss out on this opportunity.